Hello, Godot users. This is Wizard of West March with another Godot tutorial. This time we'll be talking about Animation Player. Personal opinion, this is the most powerful node in terms of default functionality in Godot, and it's the reason I started making these tutorials in the first place. I just put it off because I couldn't figure out how to structure it until somebody made the suggestion of splitting it up by track. There's going to be at least two of these. I hope you find them useful, so let's get into it. Alrighty, let's cover the basics of using the animation player. You will see I've already set up a scene. We got two sprites, two labels, and the animation player, plus a root node with a script that we will get to later. So when you have an animation player and you click on the animation at the bottom, same where output etc. is, you'll get this view. So you'll notice these different buttons that let you play backwards or forwards, stop it. The hover over gives you all the information you need. Here's the button for managing animations. So like here, I'm naming it that because I believe that is what is expected in the script that we're going to look at later. Name it whatever you want. Keep in mind, case matters with just like all magic strings in Godot. Okay, so I've created the animation. We'll get down to the bottom part in a second. You will notice this button, it's autoplay on load. It does exactly what it says. As soon as the animation player node and everything around it loads, it's going to go ahead and play. So if you want it to just always play a specific animation, then it will. The stuff in edit I don't use, honestly, but I manually hit delete key, what have you. So animation length. So it's telling you that this is the length currently in seconds. So for example, let's make this 1.5. You will notice that the track part now has the light gray for longer. The looping arrows is what you would expect. It's looping, so it goes from 0 to the end and then immediately goes back to 0. But if you click it again, you get this, and that's ping-ponging. So once it hits 1.5, it will reverse direction, go back to 0, just go back and forth. This bar lets you zoom in and out, so you have different levels of view on what you're doing. Seconds versus FPS is saying how you want this timeline to be managed. I tend to use seconds, but do what you want. Snap is when you're dragging this blue line, what does it increment in? So that's the basics of what I use in the UI for a lot of that in that screen. So let's go ahead and look at animating something. So let me put the blue bar back at the beginning, which matters because you'll notice these keys when I have the animation player UI up over in the inspector. So when I click this, you'll notice it gives you an option use Bezier curves, which I don't normally do, but they basically let you have a different type of control of how the values flow from one to the other, and create a reset track, which defaults to on, and I do, because that way if I want to go back to the default, I can just play that from the animation player. So you hit create, and you will notice it now has the name of the node, and then it tells you which property is set. And if you can then click on the dot to indicate that to see the values in the inspector. So you'll notice here it shows that it's got the value of the X and the Y, and then this easing, which we'll get into more in a sec. So now if I put the blue line at the end, go back to the sprite player. Now, if I make this, let's say 50, then actually, you know what? Let's do 223. Actually, you know what? Let's do 123. I want this to be a little more extreme. So now, with the blue line here, I hit key again, and you'll notice it has a new dot with the value. So if we come back to the beginning, and I hit this play button, you can see it make the change. So the reason it is continuous like that is you'll see these three settings here. So this first one you can do continuous or discrete, which are the two I use. Let's go ahead and set it to discrete. So it gets to the end and it sets it all at once. If you want that, then use it. If you don't, use continuous. Um, nearest actually does the exact same thing. So you'll notice you'll notice I'm on continuous here. But when I hit play, it still does it similar when I have it on nearest instead of linear. Cubic, it actually changes the flow a bit, and this is similar to easing, although it's not the same level of control. You'll notice it started slow, sped up, and then slowed down instead of just being just a constant change. So, and I don't use the clamp and wrap stuff personally. If there's enough interest, I can go back and talk about it more later. So that is the basics of using a position track. So there's the basics. Let's see a few more things now. So for example, you can click on the add track and do it in a different way. So in this case, we'll do property track again. We will still be messing with Sprite 2D, and you can search when you're here. So for example, if I want to do rotation, I can. And then when you're in here, you can also right click and insert key. So in this case, you'll see it's 0. I'm going to come to the end, right click, insert key again, click on it so I've got its value. And with rotation, you can do 360 to then have it do a full loop. So with stuff where begin and an end, you can have two different values that come to the same thing. That works. So let's go ahead and play it, and you'll notice it spins around. Okay, so that's really handy. And obviously, if you did discrete, with this, it would make no sense because it's just going to snap to being complete circle again. But let's go ahead and start looking at easing. So you'll notice this here, and it's a slope. You can just screw with values. Now, when you play, you'll notice it just all of a sudden snaps right at the end. So linear is the default value, and you'll see that there's a few built-in ones. I'm not going to show 0. I'm just going to tell you that is the exact same thing as discrete. It's just going to snap right at the end. So if we look at ease in, it takes its time building up to it, but then it ends up working. If you do ease out, then it does more of the work at the front. If you do ease in out, it looks like this. So each of these is a little bit different, and importantly, so let's do ease out in just to show that for reference. Now, so we're here. Now I can also like sit here and tweak it a bit. And so you can play with it and try to find the exact feel you want, which can be great for game feel. Like obviously what I just did doesn't look great, so I'm going to just go back to linear. But that shows the variety of ways you can make the numbers change and have it create different effects, different feels, and give you a better version of what you want. Alrighty, let's spend just slightly more time on ease in out because I think seeing it compared directly will make it more obvious. So I'm going to go ahead and add node 2, create the reset track again. So it creates that there, come to the end, right click, insert key. Let's set this to 119 so it'll make it close. And let's set this to ease in. Now, when we watch them go, you'll notice how differently they move. Let's go ahead and do one more. Let's go ahead and do the ease out. And just gives you a better idea of how they flow together. I will mention tweens have similar functionality where you can pass ease in, etc. And they are just as useful there. All of this is great for Juice. All right, let's cover something a little more advanced. you don't just have to do default properties. As you can see here, I've got two I made in the script, and they have the key icons as well. So what I can do is I can hit the key on this, hit create just like we have before, and you will notice that it just made text value. Note, if you want to move these nodes around, if you just click and drag, it works. So if you accidentally put it in the wrong spot, not a big deal. So we've got the value here, it's at 0. I'm going to right click, do insert key, and then update this to 10. Note, it does discrete by default for integers. I don't know why, but if you want continuous, do it to continuous. Important note, because of the way I'm doing this, this label, which is what would be getting updated by the property, does not change. And the reason is code is not run in the player because it's not running the game. So let me give a simple example. So I'm using a feature that I can cover in more detail if people want called setters. The idea is you can make a function that is run every time they try to set the value. Note, it does not rerun itself. So inside this function, it will not trigger this again. So now we are actually setting text underbar value equal to the thing passed in. And that property name or parameter name is not required to be value. It's just a common convention. And then I update the label to string of the text. So if we play, now we will see it's counting up to 19. So yeah, so we come back here, you'll notice I put it at 19. Fairly straightforward. And all the standard stuff works with that. You can also do it with floats, as you will see here. Let's start it also at 0.0. So I will key that, create, drag it back to the beginning, and then right click, insert key, click on this one, and I will do 10.01 just because we have a second label. So we will run that, and you will notice that float up until it got to 10.01 and also stopped. So that's how you can do properties that are not built in. All right, let's cover one last thing that's a more advanced feature but very useful for anybody who's interested in updating uniforms and shaders. Stick around. If that's not your cup of tea right now, feel free to drop out and come back for the next video. So the way this works is so I click here, you'll notice I've already got a shader with two uniforms, input color and blender amount, and they have a key just like everything else. So I click on blend amount, for example, which is just a float, create, and it's here, and you'll see it's at 0. And then I'm going to come all the way here to the end, right click, insert key, make sure it's selected, put it to 1, because this is a mix blend. So now, if we come over here, so you will see that the color changes as it blends from using nothing from the color to using all of the color. We can also, coming back over here to the sprite, and it is definitely annoying that it will randomly decide to stop having the keys available. But, so I'm going to create this, pull it back to the beginning, and then here at the end, I'm going to insert key. And now, because I've set it up as a color, we can color pick it. And now if I play it, so this would probably work better with like an ease in or an ease out. So yeah, it starts fading to greenish, but as it goes, it also turns purple. So any value that has a number behind it is very easy to do this, and you don't need to put in a whole bunch of keys. You can just put the beginning and the end, and it will flow between them. And colors are just a set of 4 numbers under the hood, because it's your R, your G, your B, and your alpha. So that is how you do shader uniforms. hopefully this has given you an idea of just all of the different things you can do with the property track. I will note there are also some 3D tracks you can use. The position one works just like position I showed with the sprite, and rotation requires quaternions, which is part of why I'm not covering it in this video. But yeah, those are very similar to what you've seen here, just they are more optimal because the Godot team put in work under the hood since it knows exactly what it is. Anytime you want to update properties over time, this can be much easier to do than handling it in GD script code. And an added benefit is that code will be running in C++ instead of GD script or even C# and give you some performance benefits most likely. And honestly, less code means less things to debug because the Godot team has spent a ton of time making the animation player work well. So hopefully that was useful. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, let me know. And if I use it, I will give you a shout out. Take care and have a great day, Godot users.